popping in here from somewhere that does actually have the microphone to say that this episode is going to be extremely queer and contain mentions of sex. If you're my parents listening to this, go away. If these topics make you uncomfortable, A, examine your homophobia, and B, completely fine to be uncomfortable with mentions of sex, but if it's just queer sex that offends you, or the idea that some of us are not following the norms, again, re-examine your inner queer phobia. Okay, with that out of the way, alright then lads, ladies, and those of us who know better, my name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and welcome back to Bold and Bright. So, right off the bat, I'm Ace, which is short for asexual. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, it means that I am not sexually attracted to anyone. More about that later on in the video, but I'd just like to talk about my experience of growing up not knowing that that was an identity and that's what I was. And also how I found out, and what my life is like now that I'm, a little bit more comfortable in my own skin. The big thing was that I didn't really twig that there was anything off with how I was attracted to people. I didn't figure that out for a while. Not that there's anything off or wrong with being queer, but I hadn't twigged that there was the difference in it yet, because I thought I was just Catholic. Because to me, oh, no sex until marriage? Okay. Who'd want to have sex after marriage anyway? That probably should have been the first major clue, but I didn't know asexual was a thing. I didn't know there was an option. I thought it was a matonormative life or, join a convent. Just a bit of information about the kind of background I was coming out of. The idea was that, you'd be a kid, then you'd be a teenager, and being a teenager, you would date, and then you'd become an adult, and you would continue to date, then you would get married, then you'd have 2.5 children, and then your 2.5 children would have 2.5 children, and then, heteronormative, amatonormative bullshit. Stuff like that. Amatonormative just means the assumption that everyone wants a long-term monogamous relationship. I'm not monogamous either, but that's a point for a different day. But something you'll know if you've ever had to be in a secondary school is that teenagers never stop talking or thinking about sex. They just don't. It is constant. And something that I was starting to realize was that made me uncomfortable. Now, okay, I've got a bit of a dirty sense of humor and I don't mind talking about it myself, but there's a big difference between, okay, this is a conversation where we can, make a few innuendos and, oh my god, I am trying to do my times tables. Why are you only talking about this? There's more important things to talk about, like musicals and Percy Jackson and the Percy Jackson musical. So I was getting, more and more uncomfortable, and other people were starting to date and talking about how they were sexually attracted to the people they were dating, and I couldn't wrap my head around that. I couldn't understand just looking at someone and wanting to sleep with them. It did not compute in my head whatsoever. I finally twigged that I was asexual when I was listening to Overly Sarcastic Productions, because both of the hosts, Red and Blue, on Overly Sarcastic Productions, I'll shorten that down to OSP to make subtitling this easier, are asexual, and they've made a couple episodes on their Overly Sarcastic podcast where they talk about being asexual, and the bit that kind of made it click was when Red said, when I see a pretty person, I just think about drawing them. That is exactly how my brain works. When I see a pretty person, I want to draw them. And yes, that means that my sense of beauty standards is completely skewed because everyone is drawable, so everyone's pretty. Okay? Yes, even the person listening to this, you would be fun to draw. I have yet to encounter a single person who does not have anything worth drawing. So I finally twigged I was asexual, at a point where I was also trying to figure out a few other things, namely the whole transness thing. But to sum up my labels for anyone listening, I am demi-panromantic, asexual, and transmasculine genderqueer. Yes, I know that's a lot of things, but I like my labels. They're cute, and I can get a lot of flags out of it. Oh, and I'm polyamorous as well, but that's, slightly different sector. I also call it being a 3-tier queer because I'm romantically queer, sexually queer, and genderly queer. I get all the queer. And it's weird being out as a couple of labels that at least people in my area and background do not understand. And there's a difference between not knowing that something exists and ignoring that something exists. So hearing someone say oh, I'm pan-romantic, you can ask, oh, I haven't heard that before. What does that mean? And I can say, oh, it means that I'm romantically attracted to every gender, more than 2, and that I'm not sexually interested in anyone. Ever. I don't know why that's such a hard distinction for people to understand, okay? Granted, we also call it being ace-spec, the asexual spectrum. And to sum it up really quick, it goes, let me make sure I'm getting this right, yeah. Sex positive, sex neutral, sex averse, and sex repulsed. And no, you cannot guess which one of those asexual people fall into just by looking at them. Okay? A person can be a stripper and still be sex repulsed asexual. Okay? Someone can be a nun and be sex positive asexual. Like, you can't really stereotype by these things. I personally fall on the repulsed end of the spectrum, but that's literally just me. I am one asexual person, and we make up 1% of the population of the world. So that's more than Denmark and about the same as autistic people. Yes, there are more autistic people and asexual people than people in Denmark. One of the biggest stumbling blocks I've had with being asexual is not how I feel about it. I'm pretty damn happy with being asexual. I like it. If you ask me if I would like to grow a sexual attraction, no, I wouldn't. I like how I am. But other people seem to have a very hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that I don't find people sexy at all. I can kind of understand why programs like Love Island grossed me out. It's not even that I'm just bored. I'm very bored with stuff like that, but I didn't know that it wasn't a universal experience feeling grossed out when those like overly sexual lingerie ads and the perfume ads where everyone's in their underwear come on. Like, ew, I'm just trying to watch something. I don't need to see that. Weirdly enough, I haven't got that much of a problem with nudity in general because I've done figure drawing art classes, but put it in a certain context and all of a sudden I want everyone to, keep their shirts on. I don't think that's such a hard thing to understand. Just before I start wrapping this up, another word that comes up a lot in discussions of asexuality is aromantic or aromanticism. To make this a little bit easier on yourselves, just remember that A basically means doesn't feel or doesn't have, so asexual doesn't feel sexual. Aromantic does not feel romantic. Agender means does not have a gender. This really isn't that hard. There are literal dictionaries for this. If you can remember paint samples for your kitchen and all the names that come with it, you can learn about queer identities. Tangent incoming, but it drives me mad when people say that someone is either too old or too young to learn about queer identities, but they're like 40. Like, no, I'm sorry. Those people can figure out streaming services and electric ovens and Alexa, but they can't understand the concept of bisexuals? No. Really, it's bullshit by people who don't want to adapt. And that is homophobia, or biphobia, or transphobia, or aphobia. Unfortunately, in this community, we have to have a lot of words for ignorant people being jackasses. I'm really glad this video isn't monetized because otherwise I think it would be demonetized by now. If you want to say that someone isn't aromantic or asexual or aroaspec, we say allo. So, does feel. So, alloromantic feels romantic. Allosexual feels sexual. Are you getting the hang of this now? I'm simplifying it down as much as I can. So, in conclusion, some people feel sexual and romantic attraction. Some people don't feel any sexual or romantic attraction. Some people feel sexual attraction but not romantic attraction. Some people, I can't remember what the last example I gave, but whatever the vice versa of that is. And some people are just wibbling around and don't want to explain their attractions, and that's also fine. You are not entitled to any information about what's going on in someone's love life or their sex life, okay? And that goes for trans people as well. You can stop asking us what parts we have. It's gross. There will absolutely have to be follow-up videos to this about me also being arospec, but I think that's enough information for now. So, outro time. This podcast uploads every other Friday. I have an art blog on Tumblr. You can find me at Blue, Bold, and Bright. If you would like additional resources for some ace stuff, I would recommend How to Be Ace by Rebecca Burgess, and also Rebecca Burgess's webcomics that feature asexual characters. They also follow me on Tumblr and they were really nice about the fan art I made. You can find them at The Aura Art. I'll put it up on the screen now so you can spell it. I think that's everything, so, alright everyone, embrace your identities, don't stop caring about things that matter to you. My name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and this has been Bold and Bright.